November 27th is known as Maaveerer Naal. First, let's break down this word. Ma means great, Veerer means warriors or heroes, and it comes from the word Veeram, which means bravery. And Naal means day. Maaveerer Naal means Great Heroes Day. This is the day where we remember those who fought for the freedom of Tamils on this island modernly known as Sri Lanka. Even if you weren't born here or your family isn't from this island, I implore you to keep watching. Other than being sympathetic, I think it's important for all Tamils to ask the question, what does the eelam Tamils fight for freedom tell us about the general state of how the Tamil language, heritage, and history is perceived by the global world? There is no doubt that this is a very sensitive and painful topic for a lot of people, and a lot of lives have been lost. One of the ways I wanted to pay tribute to our Maaveerer is to remember and share the different ways in which they fought for freedom that isn't that well known or often talked about. But in order to even get there, first let's briefly look at why there was even a need to fight for freedom. There will be sources in the description for you to do your own research because there simply isn't enough time to cover such a big topic like this. The island modernly known as Sri Lanka has had many names over time. One of them is eelam. Today, the island is home to a few ethnic groups, mainly these two. But was this always the case? Eelam is the ancestral land or motherland of Tamils. In Tamil, we say Thai Nadu. Ancient Tamil script called Tamili has been found in excavation sites on various items from caves to pots to coins in various parts of the island, including Central and South Sri Lanka, dating back 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. And if anyone went to Tamil class as a kid, you probably heard about the different Eelam Tamil Mannerkal, or Tamil kings, like King Ellalan, who ruled from 250 BCE to 161 BCE, or Ravanan, who ruled over 4,000 years ago. And now there is archaeological evidence in Kilinochchi of people living on the island during the Stone Age about 100,000 years ago. See this lighter blue outline? This shows us the land that has been submerged due to the rising sea levels over time. And remember the ancient Tamili script? Well, when compared to excavation sites found in South India, similarities in artifacts have been found, from the script to pottery and so on. Some researchers have concluded that these two separate landmasses were not only one, but the same Tamil people have lived there for thousands of years. But of course, over time, communities that settle in one area develop different dialects and practices based on their environments, as well as humans migrate for things like trade and marriage, so today we see a mix of people present on these landmasses. The origins of the Sinhala people can be traced back using the ancient Mahavamsam text. In this text, it states a banished prince from western India reaches the island with his friends in 543 BCE, and long story short, they have kids with the locals, which marks the beginning of their race. Sri Lankan academics have written how before the 12th century, Sinhalese was not the people's language yet, and it was only used by a small group of people. And that's because the language wasn't developed or written until the 5th to 9th century. Sinhalese came from the Indo-Aryan language family, and this language is actually stated to have developed differently than other Indo-Aryan languages. Many have written that this is because Sinhalese is part Pali and part Tamil. Till this day, there are a lot of Tamil words in the language. Okay, let's fast forward to the colonial period. First came the Portuguese, and then the Dutch, and both these groups acknowledged that there were separate kingdoms and two ethnic groups that had formed on the island by this time. Then came the British, and they also acknowledged this. However, they decided to rule the island as one nation. Why do you think this was? In 1948, the British left the island and the Sinhalese were given majority control of the government in a now independent country. It's important to note that a few years before gaining independence, tensions started to arise between the two ethnic groups on the island. Because of this, Tamils apparently even asked the British power to go back to being a separate state, and both groups were promised and led on this would happen. Now, have we ever seen this pattern before? If this never happened, would the Tamil genocide have even started? Because from 1948, or the year Sri Lanka gained its independence, Tamils have been facing genocide. Now let's define genocide. It's the deliberate killing and inflicting of serious mental and physical harm on a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that race in their history. In Tamil, we say Ina Alippu, which literally translates to race erasure. Since 1948, there is documentation of Tamil genocide in Sri Lanka. In other words, people were being oppressed and killed just for being Tamil. And you see, Tamils were actively trying to stop this. Because of colonization, many people on the island were proficient in English and were able to get an education in Europe. So many people were highly educated. They approached stopping this through protesting, they tried to get bills and laws passed, and they tried to speak with members of parliament just so they could live their lives. In May 1976, lawyer and political party leader Thande Selvanayagam proposed the Vattukota resolution after countless efforts and broken promises to stop what was happening to Tamils. He stated that Tamilulam, a separate nation state, would be the only solution to live free. You can say this is when things started to really shift and a movement began across Tamil areas. In 1983, Black July or Karupu July happened. A horrific series of massacres across the island. Homes and businesses were destroyed. It's important to note Tamils lived all over the island, but now over tens of thousands of Tamils who lived in South and Central Sri Lanka were displaced and no longer had a home. Black July marks the beginning of war in Sri Lanka. Let's define war. War is called por in Tamil, a state of armed conflict between different nations or states or different groups within a nation or state. This is when there are two sides fighting. Note, genocide is when one entity is attacking and erasing the existence of a race, and war is when two sides are fighting. So when people label the eelam Tamil struggle as just war, I would disagree. The struggle can't be boxed into only what happened during the 26 war period. What's happened before and after are also necessary and need to be looked at. Okay, so now that we have a basic understanding of why Tamils needed to fight for freedom, what were the other ways our Maaveerer fought for freedom other than fighting on a battlefield? One way is through the arts. Our Maaveerer released music and art not only as a way to cope with what was going on, but also for a symbol of hope and to share with others the situation they were in. You can actually learn a lot from the song lyrics during this time. Another way was documenting and sharing what was going on with the world. Journalists trying to cover this regardless of their race have been tortured and killed for sharing what was going on. Maybe you've Googled something before and read only negative or misinformation about the Tamil struggle. When there's genocide taking place and the government is against a group of people, obviously they have control of what information is spread within the country and what leaves the country. Ultimately, this is because they have a seat at the table and are recognized as a country. This is why our Maaveerer fought for international recognition. They've asked to meet with other governments and the UN for support and to have a seat at the table to discuss what was going on. And they were actually able to do this with a lot of different countries. One of the people the Tamils asked for help was their neighbors in Tamil Nadu. A lot of people don't know this, but because of this, India deployed the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka to monitor peace. It wasn't until later that everyone discovered this was actually to demobilize the Tamil forces. Only they didn't do that, they killed Tamil civilians. I've heard first account stories of civilians' traumatizing encounters with the Indian peacekeeping force. They were actually responsible for raping and massacring Tamil civilians. Okay, so what else? The Maaveerer shared stories and they documented everything. They also were rebuilding the Tamil homeland with its own economy, bank, police stations, courts, hospital, children's home, schools, and yes, even a medical and law school. During this time, in the early 2000s, the homeland was actually thriving, and of course, this is just a generalization. Even if you were a Tamil guy and you were catcalling and harassing a girl, you'd get taken to the police station because regardless of your race, that's just unacceptable behavior, and it was safe for people to walk alone at night. You see, this just wasn't about running their own state. It was to ensure that everyone came back to our true Tamil morals and values. I know the words Tamilulam and Maaveerer mean many different things to many different people, but after hearing and reading all of this, from my understanding, it seems like for our Maaveerer, they fought for an internationally recognized nation state with a governing body and laws that would protect its citizens and ensure you wouldn't be harassed, killed, or assaulted just because you were Tamil, a place where you could carry out your basic human life rightfully so on your ancestral land without your history and heritage being erased. So now, as we remember our fallen heroes, perhaps you can also discuss and remember how and why they fought for freedom. And as for the current state of Tamils in Sri Lanka, perhaps there are many more questions that need to be answered. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.